The door clicked shut behind them, the single key card passed between their fingers like a secret. Sarah's perfume lingered in the air as Mark set his daughter's stuffed bunny on the nightstand, the same nightstand they'd now have to share. Neither spoke of the single bed dominating the room, their eyes meeting for just a moment before darting away. "I won't tell anyone if you won't," he whispered, and for the first time since her divorce, Sarah felt something stir within her that she thought had died long ago. But this wasn't just about them anymore. His daughter was sleeping just down the hall in the hotel staff's break room, the only other space they could find. One night. Two strangers. And complications neither of them had planned for. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to catch more original content like this every week. Your support means everything to this channel. Sarah Winters gripped the steering wheel of her rental car, knuckles white as she peered through the windshield. The rain had started as a gentle patter an hour ago but had transformed into a relentless downpour, sheets of water cascading across the road. Her GPS had lost signal 20 minutes back, and the darkness of the country road seemed to swallow her headlights. "Just my luck," she muttered, squinting at a road sign that materialized out of the gloom. Pinewood Lodge, 3 miles. Relief washed over her. The conference could wait until tomorrow. Tonight, she needed shelter. The marketing presentation she'd spent weeks perfecting sat in her briefcase on the passenger seat. As the newly appointed marketing director at Horizon Tech, this presentation to potential investors could make or break her career. After fighting her way up through a male-dominated industry for 15 years, Sarah had finally reached a position where her voice mattered. She couldn't afford to mess this up. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the dense forest on either side of the narrow road. For a split second, Sarah thought she saw something dart across her path. She slammed on the brakes, the car hydroplaning slightly before coming to a stop. Her heart hammered in her chest as she peered into the darkness. Nothing. Just nerves and exhaustion playing tricks on her mind. She took a deep breath and continued driving, more slowly now. The lodge appeared like a mirage through the curtain of rain, a large, rustic building with warm yellow light spilling from its windows. Sarah pulled into the parking lot, noticing only a handful of other vehicles. She grabbed her overnight bag and briefcase, then made a dash for the entrance. The warmth of the lobby enveloped her as she pushed through the heavy wooden doors. A fire crackled in a stone hearth, and the scent of pine and cinnamon hung in the air. For a moment, Sarah stood dripping on the welcome mat, taking in the unexpected charm of the place. "Rough night out there, huh?" Sarah turned toward the voice. A man stood behind the reception desk, early 40s perhaps, with kind eyes and the beginning of smile lines at their corners. His name tag read Mark. "You could say that," Sarah replied, approaching the desk. "I was hoping you might have a room available for the night. My GPS went haywire, and this storm isn't letting up." Mark's expression shifted slightly. "You're in luck, and not in luck. We have exactly one room left, but there's a bit of a situation." Sarah set her bag down. "What kind of situation?" Before Mark could answer, a small voice called out from behind the desk. "Dad, I can't find Mr. Hoppy." A little girl, no more than 6 or 7, appeared beside Mark. She had his same warm eyes, though hers were currently filled with distress. She clutched a blanket in one hand, her pajamas decorated with cartoon dinosaurs. "Lily, I told you to wait in the office," Mark said gently. "Mr. Hoppy is probably still in the car. I'll get him in a minute, okay?" "But I can't sleep without him," the little girl insisted, her lower lip trembling. Sarah watched the interaction with interest. So the receptionist was also a father, a single father, by the looks of it, working the night shift with his daughter in tow. Mark turned back to Sarah with an apologetic smile. "Sorry about that. As I was saying, we do have one room left, but there's a complication. The storm has knocked out power to the east wing of the lodge, and we've had to relocate several guests." We're completely booked except for one standard room. That's fine, Sarah said. I just need a place to sleep for the night. Mark hesitated. The thing is, I was planning to use that room myself. My daughter and I live about 30 miles from here, and in this weather. He gestured toward the windows, where lightning illuminated the torrential downpour. Oh. Sarah's shoulders slumped. I understand. No, wait, Mark said quickly. I wasn't saying no. I was just explaining why. He ran a hand through his hair. Look, there's one room. You need a place to stay, and so do we. We're adults, right? I can set up a cot or sleep on the floor. Sarah blinked, taken aback by the suggestion. You'd share your room with a complete stranger? Mark shrugged. It's either that or one of us sleeps in the lobby, and I can't let you do that. Plus, I have Lily to think about. As if on cue, Lily tugged at her father's sleeve. Dad, I'm tired. Sarah looked at the child's sleepy face, then back at Mark. There was something trustworthy about him, a steadiness in his gaze that put her at ease despite the unorthodox situation. All right, she said finally. If you're sure it's not an imposition. Not at all, Mark replied, relief evident in his voice. Let me just grab the key and Lily's stuffed rabbit from the car. I'll be right back. As Mark disappeared into the storm, Sarah knelt down to Lily's level. Hi there. I'm Sarah. The little girl regarded her with solemn eyes. I'm Lily. I'm 6 3/4. That's very grown up, Sarah said seriously. Is Mr. Hoppy your rabbit? Lily nodded. He protects me from bad dreams. That's a very important job, Sarah agreed. I used to have a teddy bear named Bruno who did the same thing when I was your age. What happened to him? Lily asked. The question caught Sarah off guard. What had happened to Bruno? Somewhere in the whirlwind of college, career advancement, and her brief, failed marriage, Bruno had disappeared. Just like so many other pieces of her former self. I'm not sure, Sarah admitted. I think he retired when I grew up. Lily considered this. That's sad. Mr. Hoppy is never going to retire. The door burst open, and Mark reappeared, soaked to the skin but triumphantly holding a bedraggled stuffed rabbit. Look who I found trying to swim away. Lily squealed with delight and rushed to claim her beloved toy. Mark handed her the rabbit, then grabbed a small suitcase from behind the desk. Janet from the morning shift is coming in early to cover for me, he explained to Sarah. The room is on the 2nd floor. Shall we? As they climbed the stairs, Sarah found herself studying Mark from behind. He wasn't what she would typically consider her type, no designer suit, no power tie, none of the trappings of the corporate men she usually encountered. Instead, there was something refreshingly genuine about him, from the way he interacted with his daughter to his practical solution to their shared predicament. The room was modest but clean, with a queen-sized bed, a small desk, and an armchair by the window. Mark set their bags down and immediately began rearranging the furniture. I can push the armchair and ottoman together to make a sort of bed for myself, he said. You take the Real bed. Don't be ridiculous, Sarah protested. I can't put you out like that. I'll take the makeshift bed. Absolutely not. You're the guest. Where's Lily going to sleep? Sarah asked, noticing the child yawning widely. Mark looked around the room. She can take half the bed. She's small, and she usually ends up sprawled across me anyway. Then it's settled, Sarah said firmly. Lily gets half the bed, you get half, and I'll take the chair arrangement. But I insist, Sarah cut him off. I've slept in worse places during business trips. Once I had to spend the night in an airport lounge when all flights were grounded due to a snowstorm. Mark studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, but at least let me make it as comfortable as possible. While Mark arranged extra pillows and blankets from the closet to create a passable sleeping surface, Sarah took her toiletry bag into the bathroom to freshen up. She stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her usually immaculate bob was frizzing from the humidity, and her designer blouse was wrinkled from the long drive. She looked tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that came from years of pushing herself to the limit. When she emerged, she found Lily already curled up on one side of the bed, Mr. Hoppy clutched to her chest, fast asleep. Mark sat at the desk, typing on his phone. "Just letting the morning staff know about the situation," he explained. "Do you need to charge your phone or anything?" Sarah nodded gratefully. "If you don't mind. I should set an alarm. I need to be on the road by 7 to make it to my conference." "No problem." Mark handed her a charger. "What kind of conference?" "A tech investment summit in Portland. I'm presenting our company's new marketing strategy to potential investors." Sarah plugged in her phone. "What about you? Have you always worked at the lodge?" Mark shook his head. "No, this is relatively new for me. I used to be an architectural engineer in Seattle. After my wife died 3 years ago, I needed a change of pace, somewhere quieter to raise Lily." The casual mention of his wife's death hung in the air between them. Sarah wasn't sure how to respond. Offer condolences? Ask questions? Change the subject? "I'm sorry," she said finally. "That must have been incredibly difficult." Mark's eyes met hers. "It was. Still is, sometimes. But we're finding our way." He glanced at his sleeping daughter. "Kids are remarkably resilient. More so than adults, I think." Sarah nodded, thinking of her own resilience, tested by different circumstances. "I know what you mean. Life rarely goes according to plan." "What was your plan?" Mark asked, his tone curious rather than intrusive. Sarah settled into her makeshift bed, surprised by how comfortable Mark had managed to make it. "Oh, the usual corporate ladder climb. Which I've done, more or less. But I thought I'd have more by now. A family, maybe. A sense of, I don't know, fulfillment, I guess." "And you don't?" "I have moments," Sarah admitted. "When a campaign succeeds or when I mentor younger women in the company. But then I go home to an empty apartment and wonder what it's all for." "I know that feeling," Mark said quietly. Different circumstances, but the same question. They fell into a comfortable silence, the rain pattering against the window the only sound in the room. Sarah found herself studying Mark's profile as he checked on Lily one more time, adjusting her blanket with a tenderness that made something twist in Sarah's chest. "We should probably get some sleep," Mark said, turning back to her. "Morning will come too soon." "You're right." Sarah settled deeper into her nest of blankets. "Good night, Mark. And thank you for sharing your room." Mark smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Good night, Sarah. I won't tell anyone about our unconventional sleeping arrangement if you won't." "It'll be our secret," she replied, returning his smile. As the lights went out, Sarah lay awake, listening to the steady breathing of her unexpected roommates. There was something strangely comforting about not being alone, even if it was with strangers. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt the tight knot of tension in her shoulders begin to unravel. Sarah woke to the sound of whispers and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she was disoriented, her body stiff from sleeping in the improvised bed. Then the events of the previous night came flooding back. She opened her eyes to find Lily sitting cross-legged on the floor nearby, having what appeared to be an intense conversation with Mr. Hoppy. Mark was nowhere to be seen. "Good morning," Sarah said, her voice raspy with sleep. Lily looked up, not at all surprised to find Sarah awake. "Mr. Hoppy says your hair looks funny in the morning." Sarah ran a hand through her hair, feeling the wayward strands sticking out in all directions. "Mr. Hoppy is very observant." Dad went to get breakfast, Lily informed her. He said not to wake you up, but I didn't. You woke up all by yourself. That's true, Sarah agreed, sitting up and stretching. What time is it? The big hand is on the 12 and the little hand is on the 6, Lily reported, pointing to the clock on the wall. 6 o'clock. Sarah had an hour before she needed to leave. She stood up, gathering her clothes for the day, a charcoal gray suit that had thankfully survived the journey without too many wrinkles. I'm going to get dressed in the bathroom, she told Lily. Will you be okay out here by yourself? Lily gave her a look that suggested this was a ridiculous question. I have Mr. Hoppy. Of course, Sarah said solemnly. How could I forget? In the bathroom, Sarah went through her morning routine with practiced efficiency. As she applied her makeup, just enough to look polished and professional, she found herself thinking about Mark. There was something about him that had gotten under her skin, a genuineness that was rare in her world of corporate politics and strategic networking. When she emerged, Mark had returned, bearing a tray with coffee, juice, and an assortment of pastries. I hope you like blueberry muffins, he said by way of greeting. The kitchen wasn't fully open yet, but I convinced them to part with these. Blueberry is perfect, Sarah replied, accepting the coffee he offered. Thank you. You didn't have to do this. Consider it part of your unconventional lodging package, Mark said with a smile. Sleep on a chair, get breakfast in bed, well, in chair. Sarah laughed, surprised by how light she felt. When was the last time she had laughed before her first cup of coffee? They ate together, Lily chattering about a dream she'd had involving Mr. Hoppy and a dragon who couldn't breathe fire because he had a cold. Mark listened attentively, asking questions that showed he was genuinely interested in his daughter's imaginative tale. Sarah checked her phone. The storm seems to have cleared up overnight. Yeah, the roads should be fine now, Mark agreed. Are you heading straight to your conference? Sarah nodded. I present at 11. Just enough time to get there and review my notes one more time. You'll do great, Mark said with a certainty that caught Sarah off guard. You don't even know what my presentation is about, she pointed out. Mark shrugged. I don't need to. You strike me as someone who's thoroughly prepared for whatever she takes on. The compliment, simple as it was, warmed Sarah more than the coffee. Thank you. That's nice of you to say. As she gathered her things, Sarah felt a strange reluctance to leave. This brief interlude with Mark and Lily had been unexpected but somehow significant, like stumbling upon an alternate version of what her life could have been. Well, I should get going, she said, slinging her briefcase over her shoulder. Thank you again for sharing your room. And for breakfast. Our pleasure, Mark replied. Good luck with your presentation. Lily looked up from where she was coloring on the desk. Are you leaving now? I am, Sarah said. It was very nice to meet you and Mr. Hoppy. Lily considered this for a moment, then held out her stuffed rabbit. Mr. Hoppy wants to give you something. Confused, Sarah knelt down to the child's level. Lily pressed the rabbit against Sarah's cheek in what was clearly meant to be a kiss. He says that's for good luck, Lily explained seriously. For your important grown-up talking. Something caught in Sarah's throat. That's very kind of him. I think it will definitely bring me luck. As she straightened up, her eyes met Mark's. There was a warmth there, an understanding that passed between them without words. I won't tell anyone that Mr. Hoppy kissed you, Mark said softly. Professional reputation and all that. Sarah smiled. I appreciate your discretion. At the door, she hesitated. Mark, it was.